So a lot of our older players know this, but one of my favorite artists of all time is J. Cole. And I still remember like back in the early days when I was building EGT, the warm-up was my soundtrack. Like morning till night, I listened to that thing all day long. And so at the time of recording this talk, J. Cole has released a new album called The Off Season. And we are going to be learning a really important lesson about the deep game from J. Cole today. So this lesson was inspired actually by a video that he released during the during the pre-launch of this album. And in this video, he said something that really resonated with me and it inspired this talk. So what he said was basically for the past 5 years leading into this album, he had been fighting against comfort. He had been in a fight against comfort. And all of the creative energy that had gone into building his skill set as an artist, to creating music, to accomplishing these goals that he'd set out for himself as an artist, all of this creative energy that he had throughout his whole life got channeled after he had accomplished everything that he set out to accomplish, got channeled into living this life of ease and comfort and luxury. And this is a common trap that a lot of really successful people fall into. And I fell into it myself. And J. Cole actually talks about how he got out of that trap. And it was the exact same way for me. So I'm going to share what happened for me. And I still look back on this moment as probably one of the darkest times of my entire life. And it's something that you don't think about when you start setting goals for yourself and set out to actually achieve those goals. What happens if they're not the right goals? And what happens if when you achieve them, they didn't bring you the fulfillment that you thought? So when I was starting out building EGT, I basically lived in this basement of a student house. It was actually, I think it was, there was like a mold in the walls and stuff. It was not a good situation. In this like basement of a student house, lived there for 18 months. I almost never came upstairs. My friends were all partying upstairs and I'd be downstairs, like locked in this student house basement, building EGT, again, for 18 straight months. I had a mattress on the floor beside my desk. And I just like worked nonstop at building this business. I still look back on that time, honestly, as uncomfortable as it was, as one of the most fun times of my life. It was just so deeply fulfilling to like channel all of my energy into this one goal. So I achieved the goal. As you probably know by now, EGT went on to be very successful. We had a huge launch, and within a couple of years, I had a multi-million-dollar company at, I guess I was in my early 20s at the time. And with that came all the stuff that I thought that I wanted. I had a fancy Audi car that I was driving. I bought a house. I had a girlfriend that I really loved. I had this amazing group of friends. We used to all go on trips on the weekends to places nearby. We would go on trips a few times a year. I was traveling. I was doing all of this stuff that I always dreamed of doing. And back then, people talk about like the internet lifestyle and stuff like that now. Back then it was more of a new concept, but I actually did that. Like the 4-hour work week, I actually did that. And I was working, I don't think I worked 4 hours a week, but I was down to working maybe a couple hours a day at one point and just living my life really, really comfortably. I'd hang out with my friends. I would play video games. I'd go to the gym and work out. I would just go through my days really casually and lazily. And I fell into this life of ease and comfort. And that was okay for a little while until it wasn't anymore, And I realized that what I was doing, my work and the way in which I was working was so deeply unfulfilling that actually at the darkest point, I was not sure why I was even alive. And I don't mean that I was like suicidal or anything like that. Like I absolutely was not, but my life had taken on this gray, empty, bland quality where I was just like, what is the point of any of this? And I looked around at the house and at the car I had in the driveway and all of this fancy stuff that I was doing in my life. And I looked around thinking like, what is the point? What is the point? What have I done? And I remember I went to my mom's house one night for dinner, and the conversation just went in this direction that she basically looked at me and asked, like, are you happy? Are you happy with what you've accomplished? Like, I hope you are. And I just looked at her and I almost burst out crying. I held it back in that moment, but I was like on the verge of tears, and she could feel that. And I said, like, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what to do with my life. I'd achieved everything that I thought that I wanted. I was doing work that I enjoyed. I had this amazing group of friends, girlfriend, all, the house, the car, all this stuff. And it was so deeply unfulfilling that I really just didn't get the purpose of my life. Like, why am I here on this planet? Okay. That was my experience. And J. Cole, I don't think went quite as deeply into it as I just did. But it's the same thing. We got trapped into this life of ease and comfort. And so many people, so many, even basketball players, like we set out to achieve these goals so that we can someday live this like luxurious lifestyle and have all the things that we thought that we wanted. And when we get there, inevitably, at least if you're, a deeper human being, like you've got layers to you, maybe it's satisfying for some people. I don't know. I can't imagine that it is. But once you get there and you start to relax into this life of luxury and comfort, it's not what you thought. It's not what you thought. And there is, in my life, very few experiences have been more painful than achieving a goal and realizing that it wasn't the right goal in the first place. Now, I don't mean that I shouldn't have built EGT. I loved that work. I loved the work that we were doing. It led me to teaching DeepGame, and all of that was great. But the way in which I was working, the comfort and the ease of my life was the wrong goal. It was the wrong goal. And what saved me and what saved J. Cole, this is where our paths kind of intersected. What saved us is switching from living a life of comfort to living a life of craftsmanship, okay? Comfort versus craftsmanship. This is the crux, okay? When I finally started to feel purpose again in my work, when my daily life became deeply satisfying, is when I refocused on not the things that my work had generated for me, the money and the house and the car and like all of the stuff, but the craft of the work itself. And for me, that took the form of writing for the most part, of creating the best training programs that I possibly could, but the craft of the teaching itself and the ways in which that I taught. I would show up every single day and put hours in on the craft. Okay. It wasn't necessarily so much about the revenue that our business was generating anymore. We were doing really well. It was the literally just showing up and sharpening the craft just a little bit by little bit by little bit every single day. And that's what J. Cole said in that video, is that basically he thought to himself, like, am I satisfied with the heights that I've reached, not in my external success, but as my skill as an artist? Have I made the best music that I possibly can? And in that moment, he said, like, he just decided, no, I'm not finished. And that's when he got back in the lab. And that really is what saved me out of one of the darkest times of my life. And if you're, I imagine most players watching this are still in that stage, the early stage of looking at a goal and channeling all of their energy into that goal. Just understand that at that stage, if you expect the results and the achievement and the rewards and the recognition and the accolades and the ease and the comfort that comes from achieving that goal to fulfill you, it's never going to. And you're kind of on this collision course with a really dark moment, where you realize it's not what you thought it was. It's not what you thought it was. What will save you? What will save you, and what can save you right now, is to redirect that energy, not at the accomplishments and the rewards and the recognition from doing what you're doing right now. Put it on the craft. Put it on the craft. And you no longer seek this life of ease and luxury and comfort. You seek the life of craftsmanship, where it's not quite as luxurious and exciting. I mean, you can still have the stuff. The stuff is kind of beside the point. It's not like you can't have luxury. It's just that your attachment is not to the luxury itself. It's not to the ease and to the comfort. It's to the craft, showing up every day and getting a little bit better. This fine attention to detail and patience at making your craft, whether it's basketball, whether it's music in the form of J. Cole, or in J. Cole's case, whether it's, these talks are a craft for me. Every single day I wake up, I film, and each day I try to get a little bit better, a little bit clearer, a little bit more spontaneous, a little bit more honest in my teaching, a little bit better every single day. It's this long, patient road of repetition, okay? It's the road to mastery. And what you find out is that the road to mastery has no destination. There is no end to the road. It's a game with infinite levels. It can go on for as long as you will live. Okay, that's the truth about the road to mastery. And so there is no reward other than the road itself. There's no place that you're trying to get to. There's no success that once you reach it, you will be finished. There's no finish line, okay? It literally is an infinite road. And what you realize in that experience is that the road is the reward in and of itself. Kobe had this beautiful way of putting it. And I'm going to butcher this because I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head in this moment. But when I think it was at his jersey retirement ceremony, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong on that, but he said that the real success, the goal that you're trying to reach is in those moments, those early mornings when you wake up and you work hard, those nights where you stay up late and you work hard, those times where you don't want to do it, but you show up and you work hard. That's the reward. That's the goal. That's the true beauty of this path. It's the path of mastery, not the path of ease and comfort and luxury that so many people think that they want. But those who have actually attained it find out very quickly that it's not what you think. It's not what you think. And the craftsmanship is where all the beauty is. So I hope I hope this has sparked a change in the way that you're looking at the goals that you're set out for yourself, the goals that you're looking to accomplish in your life. If you focus in on the craft, not the attainment of the external result of those goals, but the internal craftsmanship, that is where the fulfillment lies. And I want to point to something now. Well, before we go to that, I'm going to point to something a little bit more abstract, a little bit deeper, and something that we can't go into detail on, but I just want to point it out at it for you. But before I do that, we're going to recap on the law of transformation. Okay, this is where this ties in with the deep game. The law of transformation states that the player who seeks growth advances faster than the player who seeks accomplishment. This, in a nutshell, like this is in deep game terminology, the take-home point from this entire lesson is that if you focus on the growth, meaning the craftsmanship, getting a little bit better each day that you show up and do the work, rather than the external accomplishment that you think will fulfill you at the end of that road, you will progress much faster and you will actually, paradoxically, experience that external accomplishment much easier, much more smoothly, much faster. It will come to you in larger and larger forms, and yet you won't be attached to it. The craft is the only purpose, the meaning, and the entire path in and of itself. So what I wanted to point to is that, and again, I'm not going to go deeply on this because this could be like an entire program in and of itself. But the deepest form of fulfillment, and this is what I've discovered for myself in just this past year doing Deep Game, the deepest form of fulfillment is not just the craftsmanship, but when you connect your craftsmanship to spirituality, okay? And again, I'm not going to go deeper into this, but when your craft is an expression of your, the purest form of your spirit, that is where the deepest fulfillment comes. And that is when the hard work and the growth, I mean, with growth comes growing pains. Make no mistake, it's a painstaking process that you have to be patient with. And it's a long, long, infinite road to mastery. But when you connect it with spirituality, meaning your craft is an expression of your spirit, there is no limit to your endurance. There is, it's work that doesn't feel like work. It's early mornings that you wake up before the alarm even goes off because you just can't wait to get back to it. That's where the deepest fulfillment comes. And that's something that we will talk about in the future, I'm sure. But I just want to point out it for now. And spirituality is something that is not well understood by any means in our culture. I'm not talking about religion here. I'm not talking about any of the fluffy stuff that you're probably imagining right now. No. I'm talking about making your craft a channel for your spirit, for spirit itself. And I'll leave you with this thought. In the documentary, Kobe Doing Work by Spike Lee, Kobe says something really beautiful. He says something really beautiful. And it's towards the end, and it kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting Kobe to say this, but he said that when he's really at his best in those like monster games that he has, it doesn't feel like he's the one playing. It feels like God is coming through him and playing through him. And he's not saying this in an egotistical way, like I am God. It's like, no, I am not even here. It's just the spirit coming through me. That's where the deep fulfillment comes. And I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that when J. Cole is really in the flow, when the spirit is coming through, is when he's doing his best work, and as an artist. So anyhow, just some thoughts on the road to mastery for you. I hope this helped you out. I hope you enjoy that new album. I still haven't listened to it, actually. It's like early in the morning here on the day of the release, so I'm going to go listen to it now, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, it's Coach Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's talk. And if you did, the best thing to do right now, while it's fresh in your mind, is go to deepgame.com or click the link in the description, and it'll take you to our free Deep Game Masterclass, where you'll actually learn the entire deep game of basketball with all 8 laws and all of the fundamentals that you need to know as a high-level basketball player. We've had players call this the best hour of basketball learning of their lives, and it's completely free. So go to deepgame.com right now, or just click the link in the description, and I can't wait to see you there.